What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Nerd Level Rising. This is Jake. I am excited today to jump into a new video series that I'm going to do where I'm going to go through each decade and sort of work backwards in time and just talk about some of the series that have jumped out at me that I really want to check out. These are always fun to kind of look at things that we can read in the future. Isn't that funny how readers like to do that? It's so fun to read something and to think about what we've read, but in some ways it's almost more fun to look at things that we still want to read. I don't know, it's kind of that shiny object syndrome or whatever, right? So who knows, but this is really fun. I'm looking forward to this. We're going to start with the 2010s today because that's just the most recent. 2010s obviously, or 2020s obviously aren't over yet. So we're going to start with the 2010s. Few rules for this video series. Number one, you're probably going to see me glance at my notes a lot. I'm sure you guys can see me glance at them in most videos, right? But more than normal because I want to be able to read a quick pitch for some of these things, and I don't want to butcher it. So that's one. You're going to see me glance down some. Two, these are in no particular order. They're not prioritized or ranked. It's just some things that jumped out at me. Three, not an exhaustive list. I just went through my massive spreadsheet of all the stuff I want to check out, picked some things out from this decade that I thought would be interesting to mention, and tried to get, kind of as much of a spectrum as I could, at least based on what my interests are and what I've heard about. There's going to be stuff I haven't heard about either yet, right? So not an exhaustive list. If there's other stuff from this decade, let me know in the comments, right? Let me get my list even longer. I love that. And then the other thing is that this is just, it doesn't necessarily mean that the entire series was published in the 2010s, just as long as it started then, right? If it's a really long series, it's probably going to extend past that decade marker. But anyway, those are my rules. What I'm going to do here, I'll mention the series, kind of give you the quick elevator pitch for the series as a whole, spoiler free, and then mention the first book, year it was published, and then a quick little blurb for that first book. And I did check through these just to make sure that they're not spoilery, but I want to at least give you something rather than just say, here's the name of the series, just something to kind of grab onto in case you're interested and you want to check it out like me. So let's jump in, shall we? Number one on the list, The Broken Empire Trilogy by Mark Lawrence. And this one is seems to be kind of divisive. From what I hear, this grimdark, just absolutely brutal, horrendous world and main character that some people just can't latch onto the character, right? They just can't get past apparently how awful of a person that he is, and fair, right? Totally fair play. And we'll see what I think when I eventually get there. But, nonetheless, it's on the list. I'm interested in checking it out. So this is, like I said, Broken Empire Trilogy, grimdark, fast-paced, from what I hear, absolutely brutal, violent, sort of going through trying to gain power, and nothing is off limits, it seems, in terms of what our main character will do to try to get there. So this started with The Prince of Thorns back in 2011, and this follows Jorg Ankrath, a cunning and ruthless young prince leading a band of outlaws through a brutal world where violence and betrayal are the path to power. That sounds cool, right? That sounds cool to me. I know some people nope out of this trilogy pretty quick just because of, the tone and how the characters are. But for me, a lot of times the darker the better, man. So I'm ready for it. So that's the first one on the list here. Number two on the list is The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang. This is another one that seems divisive. Some people love this trilogy. It's like some of their favorite stuff they've ever read. Other people find it a bit insufferable, and particularly they don't really like the main character too much. I've heard that from a handful of people. But I've heard other people describe this as just a wonderful series about cultural identity and about war and about political maneuvering and sort of finding how you fit and reconcile your personal beliefs and values with what's going on in the world. So this started with the Poppy War, 2018, and this is when a war orphan defies her impoverished upbringing to earn a spot at an elite military academy. She uncovers a dark power that could change the fate of her nation. Again, sounds cool. War stories are always interesting to me just because, I'm not a military person. I'm absolutely terrified at the thought, to be honest. And it's interesting to explore something like that through somebody else's eyes and just sort of what they go through and what they deal with. And, a lot of times the trauma associated with it, I just find horrible, but nonetheless interesting to read about. So Poppy War, another divisive one, but has been on my list for some time. Number three is the Powder Mage Trilogy by Brian McClellan. This one pitch that I've heard, Flintlock Fantasy, which is sort of, guns, gunpowder. Interesting. I've never read anything like that. Here it's very Brandon Sanderson-esque with sort of how the magic works, hard magic system, defined rules that you can figure out and follow along the characters and as they use it to solve problems, multi-POV, sort of this wartime revolution kind of thing, right? Cool. Again, that's a classic story that we might see in fantasy, but it never gets old, does it? It never does. So this began with Promise of Blood in 2013, and after a bloody coup topples the king, a flintlock war erupts between rival factions with soldiers, sorcerers, and gods all vying for control. I love this when series bring gods into the picture. It adds such a just flair of chaos that, like, who knows what they can do, right? The power scaling, it's not every series has. Some series, the gods aren't all powerful, omnipotent, all knowing, all these things. Sometimes they have more limitations, but nonetheless, it adds just such a cool flavor to these conflicts, and I love seeing that. So I'm excited to check that one out. Number 4, The Grey Bastards by Jonathan French. This is sort of pitched oftentimes as like sort of Sons of Anarchy in a fantasy world, and I loved Sons of Anarchy, right? It's super cool. And we see in this some also non-human characters, half orcs, I believe they are, and sort of we get this, band of brothers. I imagine there's some, conflict within, right? That always adds some interesting things to stories like this, but also like a brotherhood and loyalty and things like that, right? So that kind of thing just always sounds awesome. This began with the first book of the same title, The Grey Bastards, in 2018, so kind of later in the decade, but it still counts. And this follows half-orc outcasts patrol the brutal wastelands on massive hogs, living by their own savage code, but one defiant rider uncovers a threat that could destroy everything. Sounds cool. Again, I love Sons of Anarchy. Give me some non-human characters doing Sons of Anarchy things. I'm here for it. Number 5 on the list, The Empires of Dust trilogy by Anna Smith Spark. This, to me, the biggest selling point with this, I hear a lot about how Anna Smith Spark is a fantastic grimdark writer, right? I'm here for that. But also just what I hear about her prose and how rich and how just beautiful it is. That's a huge selling point to me. That's something that I'm finding myself seeking out more and more the more well-read I become. Not that I don't love just basic, straightforward prose, but I also am just, enthralled, you might say, by prose that just really sucks me in and just grabs me and doesn't let go. And there's no way, like, it takes a lot to pry me out of that world, right? Whereas if I'm reading something that's more straightforward, easier to get distracted. I hear something, in a noise in the other room and I'm looking up, right? If I'm in a Janny Worth book or I'm in a Steven Erikson book or a Rockio book or something like that, I am in it, right? I'm just locked in. So very much looking forward to that. I hear there's some ideas of sort of existentialism and very complex character relationships here in this series as well. So this began with A Court of Broken Knives in 2017, where a mercenary company's mission to assassinate an emperor spirals into chaos, unleashing a violent web of power, greed, and treachery. Awesome. That story wrapped in the trappings and the gilding of this just gorgeous prose. Come on, man. Come on. Give me that. That's what I need. Next on the list, this is one a lot of people are going to get on me for not having read this yet, but hey, I haven't read it yet, so it's got to be on the list. And that's the Age of Madness trilogy by Joe Abercrombie. I have still to this day have only read the initial trilogy in the First Lost series, and it's one of those where I loved it so much that I wanted to space the series out. I didn't want it to be over, and I just have somehow now gone like 2 years without coming back to it, and that hurts me because I loved those books, right? So I got to come back. I got to do the standalones, and then I got to do the Age of Madness. This is obviously grimdark, right? Abercrombie, the master of grimdark, the master of amazing character work, of humor that's there and cuts through the darkness and not just gives you those moments to come up and breathe, but it makes the darkness even darker because of the contrast, right? And also sort of industrial revolution sort of time frame here, which sounds like a really interesting change of tone, change of pace from that first trilogy. So looking forward to getting into this one. This began with A Little Hatred in 2019. In an age of industrial upheaval, old feuds and new revolutions collide as ruthless opportunists and struggling idealists fight to shape the world's future. This sounds like a stage that is set to be just rife with conflict and that just trademark Abercrombie humor and darkness and the blending and just, man, I got to get back to that world, man. I really, really do. I got to get back. Next one, the Godblind trilogy by Anna Stevens. This was pitched to me originally. I think I saw this in a comment. I can't remember if I was told this directly or if I saw it in a comment. I can't remember. If you're the one who told me this, I apologize. Let me know. But I was told this is basically like grimdark John Gwynne, is basically what I was told that Anna Stevens did here. There seems to be big themes of like religious extremism and zealotry and the conflicts that can arise from that sort of thing. Just breakneck pace, relentless, dark, brutal, heavy, right? Like that. Even without a pitch for the first book, sign me up. This began in 2017 with, again, that same title, Godblind, is book 1 of the trilogy. As a brutal cult of bloodthirsty gods rises to power, unlikely heroes from opposite sides of a fractured kingdom must risk everything to resist the growing darkness. Dude, okay. That, to me, it's hard for that to... If I was going to rank these, that might be a number 1. It's arguably number 1 on the list. Because, number 1, I love John Gwynne's books. You give me grimdark John Gwynne, I'm here for it. You give me religious extremism and zealotry and the conflicts there, I'm here for it. Cults, you give me, like, people resisting the growing darkness, like, just the temptation and the... how you tie ambition and... how far, this is one of the things I love about Berserk, for example, right? The idea of ambition and the cost of it and how far is too far to go to achieve what you want. How strongly can we resist some of these urges that pull at us when we see this just grand power that's there for the taking, but we know it's not the best. How do we resist that? And maybe I'm way far off, right? Maybe that's not really what goes on in this trilogy, but it sounds to me like it is. And wow, I'm really excited to get into that one. So that's high on the list for sure. We also have slight change of pace here, slower paced, more measured, more thoughtful, more thought-provoking, just sort of a high-tension story rather than this super fast-paced, brutal, violent, bloody mess like a lot of these seem to be. That's the Books of Babel by Josiah Bancroft, and this started with Senlin Ascends in 2018. I've heard so many people talk about this on BookTube. It seems like everybody loves it, and I feel a little left out. I'd like to check it out. So the blurb for this one is, when a mild-mannered headmaster loses his wife in the sprawling, mysterious Tower of Babel, he must navigate its bizarre and dangerous halls to find her. To me, again, this sounds like sort of a slow burn, sort of a emotional tension kind of story, and I'm very, very here for that. I love, especially when it's around like romance like this. For whatever reason, I latch on to that. I find a story with themes like that just cuts right to my core for whatever reason, and it's always interesting. So that's got to be on the list. Excited to check out Senlin Ascends by Bancroft. Next up here, back to what I believe is grimdark. I have a lot of grimdark on this list, I'm finding out. The Unhewn Throne books by Brian Staveley. I believe there's 2 separate series. I think it's Chronicles of the Unhewn Throne, and then I forget what the sequel series is called. Somebody in the comments maybe knows. But this seems to me to be, it has some grimdark stuff. It has some high action, sort of fast-paced moments, but also some slower, more thoughtful moments. We're exploring things like duty and sacrifice and family and the bonds and the conflict and strife that happens within those relationships. And also just, some amazing fight scenes, which sounds really cool to me, right? I believe I heard somewhere that this was either similar or influential. I can't remember which of those it was, but in some way it was connected to the Anna Smith Spark books. Maybe it was just that it was somewhat similar or something like that. But I remember hearing them in or maybe she's just a fan of the series. I remember hearing them in conjunction somewhere. But this began with The Emperor's Blades in 2014. 3 royal siblings, a monk, a soldier, and a cunning politician, are drawn into a deadly web of assassins, conspiracy, and ancient power. I love the different natures of those things, right? 3 very, very different types of characters and their roles and probably what their values are. And then conspiracy, ancient, like there's going to be so much temptation. There's going to be so much probably, political politics happening. There's going to be, I imagine, some backstabbing, maybe some espionage, maybe, things like that. That kind of thing. I love that sort of thing in my fantasy. I'm here for it. You give me that with some great violence and some great characters. I'm here for it. I love it. Let's switch gears a little bit. let's talk about some sci-fi series. Talk about a lot of fantasy, and this kind of fits my my general. It seems to be the case for me where I tend to be like 2/3 fantasy, 1/3 sci-fi, something like that. That always seems to be how my year kind of shakes out. And it's funny that that's how this list sort of worked out. So let me talk about, I think I have 4 sci-fi series on here. I've mentioned a couple of these on the channel before, but I still want to talk about them here because they fit the decade and everything, right? Number 1 has to be The Expanse. It has to be. Character-driven space opera. I hear that it's very smooth to read, right? It's not some sci-fi is kind of difficult to get through terminology, or just some of the science, the descriptions of things can be kind of jarring for people. I hear this is a very smooth ride. Maybe being so character driven is what sort of helps with that. I know there's big epic battles, there's like aliens and stuff, right? So cool. Give me explosions and alien races and I'm happy. This started with Leviathan Wakes in 2011. When a missing person investigation uncovers a conspiracy that could ignite war across the solar system, a cynical detective and a hardened ship captain must uncover the truth. So we got a mystery involved also, man. I mean, come on, what more can we ask for? This sounds great. This is, I believe, what, a 9-book series. It's finished. Everyone says that they stick the landing. James S.A. Corey, there's 2 authors. Who is it? It's Ty Frank and I forget the name of the other one. Tell me in the comments. Let me know. But The Expanse, by all accounts, fantastic series, a must read for any sci-fi fan, especially modern sci-fi fan. It's got to be on the list, right? There's no way that it can't be. Similar for this one, another sort of, I don't know. I hesitate to call it a classic because I know it can be pretty divisive, but it's seems to be a huge talking point within sort of the modern sci-fi community. That's the 3-body problem. So this is by Sijin Liu. I hope I'm saying that correctly. Probably not, but I tried my best. To me, what I've heard the pitch for this, first contact with aliens, absolutely mind-bending, complicated, maybe confusing at times, but will challenge the reader, and not just in terms of how you're following the story, but how you are thinking about the story. And it really challenges you on a personal level of how you would react to some of these things, how you would feel about some of these things. And that, to me, just how thought-provoking people say that it is very enticing. So this was similar to some of these other ones. That first book is the same title as the trilogy, The 3-Body Problem. 2014, I believe, is when the translation came out. I think it was originally published earlier than that, but at least the U.S. translation here, 2014. A brilliant scientist's mysterious death reveals a decades-long secret, one that connects Earth to an impending alien threat with mind-bending implications. Mind-bending seems to be just the word for this, so we'll see, right? I know some people, like Tom Orange, has talked about how much he loves these books, and that last book is one of his favorite, if not his favorite book of all time. So that, to me, Tom has very good taste, so I tend to trust that quite a bit. Other people fall off the series, so who knows? Who knows what my experience will be, but definitely want to give it a shot. We have the Salvation sequence by Peter F. Hamilton, and this is a just big sprawling space opera, espionage, the alien races. To me, the other big selling point is like deep cosmic mysteries, right? We're figuring some stuff out, and it's going to be, I'm sure, like 3-Body Problem, mind-bending, challenging to wrap your head around, but nonetheless just a powerful and thought-provoking reading experience. So this began with Salvation in 2018, where a routine salvage mission uncovers an alien ship, and within it, a horrifying secret that could alter humanity's future forever. We're seeing a common theme with some of these sci-fi series that I'm interested in. As somebody who hasn't read a ton of sci-fi, this seems to be the thing that I'm gravitating towards. But let me know in the comments. Maybe there's some other stuff, other flavors of sci-fi that I'm missing out on. So let me know what should be on the list as well. There, and then the last one here, Children of Time by Adrian Tchaikovsky. There had to be some Tchaikovsky on this list. I mean, it seems like this dude publishes like 3 books a year that are all super long, and from what I understand, very well written. The quality is not sacrificed for quantity with Tchaikovsky here. So this one here, again, we're encountering an alien race, but to me, what I've heard is a big selling point of this series that also is a big detractor for others, is just how much he goes in on this alien race and really well defines the culture and just the beingness of this alien race. Some people say that it reads like a textbook and is boring and bland, and other people find it just so incredibly well written, so real, so realized, so just draws you in, right? This alien race. So who knows what my experience will be? We'll find out. But I'm excited to check it out. It seems to also kind of tackle things like survival, evolution, stuff like that are interesting things to think about, as we sort of go through. There another rocket launch here recently down here from what is it, SpaceX, I think. I don't follow any of this stuff, but I know there was a rocket and they're trying to do stuff in space, and people talk about colonizing Mars and all this stuff, and I'm like, man, someday we might be out there going out to different planets. We might find some stuff we don't expect. How are we going to deal with that? So it's sort of on my mind anyway, how we might encounter these other races potentially someday. Who knows how many years in the future? But Children of Time was book 1 in this trilogy, 2015. A last-ditch mission to save humanity leads a desperate crew to a distant planet, one already inhabited by an intelligent, rapidly evolving species. That's my list, guys. That was 13 books. 13 books that, or 13 series, I should say, much more than 13 books. A lot of trilogies, I'm noticing. But hey, trilogies are great. It's a great length for a series, right? Doesn't overstay its welcome. Beautiful story structure there. So I'm excited to check all of these out. They all sound awesome to me. I don't know. I'm noticing a lot of grimdark and a lot of like alien first contact kind of stuff. But hey, those are super interesting premises. So talk to me in the comments. What did I miss on this list, right? Add to my list, please. Grow my TBR even more than it already is. That's one of my favorite things about BookTube. Tell me, have you read any of these? Did you like them? As always, let's keep it spoiler free. But what'd you think? How would you sell some of these to somebody? And like I said, if there's other stuff published, at least started being published in the 2010s, that decade, let me know how it should get on the list. And I want to do one of these periodically. I don't know how much time will pass between doing them, but next one will be just the 2000s, right? That decade, and we'll keep going backwards in time like that. Should be a fun ride to go through there. So if you liked the video, hit that thumbs up button. If you haven't subscribed, you like the channel, hit that subscribe button too. I love seeing the channel grow, meeting more of you guys, talking to more of you guys in the comments. Check out the description of the video for a link to our Discord with me and a bunch of other booktubers in there, where we're having a great time talking about all kinds of stuff and just having fun, building that community. That's what it's all about, right? Otherwise, that's all I have for today. Thank you as always for watching. Keep an eye out for the next installment in this series whenever that happens, probably within the next few weeks, I would imagine. And yeah, have an awesome day. Thank you for watching.